Hi and welcome. You are listening to Read, Return, Repeat, and we are in the research pavilion of the Advanced Learning Library.
We wanted a really cool background while we talk about Category 7.
Which is a book someone told you not to read. And so you might be asking why we're in this special location. And that's because this time around, instead of interviewing an author who has a book relating to the topic, we decided we'll interview a local author.
And talk about the topic.
So today we're very excited to have with us today Jillian Forsberg, author of the Rhino Keeper. And so we're excited to have her on the show. Jillian holds a master's degree in public history from Wichita State University and a bachelor's in communications from McPherson College. Her research on little-known historical events has led her to discover the true history behind her first novel, The Rhino Keeper.
Jillian is a regular contributor to Writer Unboxed and leads the manuscript matchup beta reader program through History Through Fiction. Jillian owns a bridal store and has worked in bridal since 2007. She lives right here in Wichita with her husband, child, and pets. Please welcome Jillian, everybody. Great. So Jillian, we wanted to bring you here to talk about this category specifically, a book you should read, not because we don't want people to read this book, but we wanted to talk to you about like literary gatekeeping and censorship and all of the wonderful things that you put into this book. So anyway, just to make that perfectly clear to our listeners, you probably should read this book.
Thank you.
Yes.
I hope so.
So, Daniel, why don't you take the first question?
So, tell us about the Rhino Keeper. I'm really interested in Clara's story. I actually remember seeing illustrations of her way back in a long time ago. I was like, that's what people thought rhinos looked like because they would have to paint them. So yeah, I've always kind of had an interest in Clara, the rhinoceros. So go ahead and tell us about the book and kind of how you came about this idea.
Sure. So Clara's story is a true one. She was considered the first animal celebrity. She traipsed Europe with her ship captain caretaker for about 18 years.
And how do you pronounce his name?
Okay, so I wish I could go back to 1740 and tell you the answer by asking him. So I've actually heard from several different people. People who are Dutch pronounce it Douwe, and people who are British pronounce it Do.
Okay.
My audiobook reader pronounces it Douwe. So I'm assuming that if we could go back in time and ask him, then it would be Douwe Mount Vandermeer.
Okay.
But I don't know. Unless we get a TARDIS or something. We could go ask him then. But yes, so Douwe Mount Vandermeer and Clara, the Indian rhino, traveled Europe together. He took her on a 6-month sea voyage around the Horn of Africa, which is unheard of for a large animal like her. And then she met kings, queens, peasants, everything in between. She was actually the longest living rhinoceros in European history until the 20th century. Most of her other animals held in captivity that were of her species lived about 6 months. Okay. So when I found out about her story, I was at the Salina Zoo, the Rolling Hills Zoo, and I saw an Indian rhino for the first time. I saw Joya, who died in 2021, and I was kind of awestruck. What is that? He was 6 foot at the shoulder. He weighed 6,000 pounds. We're talking this is a massive animal. And I'd only ever seen the African rhinos, never an Indian one. So I immediately, being the nerd that I am, went on this big Wikipedia dive. And just like Daniel said, I saw art of Clara. And I said, what the heck is this? This animal lived with the ship captain and was in a wooden carriage traipsing around Europe for 18 years. Scroll to the bottom of the Wikipedia page. Where's the historical fiction novel? Bum, bum, bum. There isn't one. I sat on that for a while.
You saw a hole in the literature.
I did. There were 2 children's books and a nonfiction book, and I contacted the author of the nonfiction book, who miraculously emailed me back in 20 minutes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow.
She was so nice.
Oh.
We've talked so many times. She ended up being an early reader for me. Her name is Glynis Ridley.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so she's the Clara expert in the world. She shared all of her documents with me, everything that she knew. Just, hi, here's everything. Have fun. And so I wrote the book in about, I researched about a year and wrote it in about 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I haven't quite finished it yet. I was nervous. I'm glad that you said that Clara lived to a ripe old age because I was nervous. They're about to go on this major journey. And yes. so I'm glad to hear that Clara is successful in that endeavor.
Yeah.
It's not a spoiler because
Well, the book is long. Well, the book is about 270 pages. So you have at least Clara for 270 pages, okay? If that makes
Okay.
you feeling better.
it does make me feel better.
Super.
That makes me feel so much better.
Okay, great.
I had a visceral reaction to your prologue. So
Good, because a lot of people have not. And they've said, well, I don't get it. That was just 5 minutes of that character's life. Why is this such a big deal? So if you have a visceral reaction to things in books that maybe just are 5 minutes of someone's life, that kind of tells you, oh, maybe I'm going to connect with this character in a deeper way. But that also might be one of the reasons why people who read the prologue say, I don't know if I want to read the rest of this book, because it feels kind of strange to be put in that character's shoes right away.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I did.
Good.
But I'm glad to hear that it's going to be fine. I've just been kind of like, I don't want to say tepid, but like apprehensive.
Good. You should be.
Oh.
Because the way animals were treated should make you tepid and apprehensive.
That's exactly why.
Yes.
I think that's like interesting too, because like you kind of characterize Clara as this, like it's a baby rhinoceros and it's cute, but then like if you look at the time and you see like referring to it as the behemoth of Job, and there's almost like kind of like a sensationalism around it as this like beast from the wild and things, and like
Agent of Chaos. That's what Wikipedia called.
Yeah,
Because we looked up Behemoth of Job.
Yes.
Because I was like, I don't remember that story from the Bible, and they were anyway, Chaos Monster.
I think it's I think it's kind of interesting how you like not humanize but empathize this like baby animal that's also being depicted, like so like as far as like when you research this, like like the historical side of it, was like what was that always the perception of Clara coming from like historical, or were there any more like intimate accounts that kind of described her more?
For sure, there were both. On a lot of her broadsides, which were basically just pieces of ephemera that were placed on tavern walls and distributed amongst, small villages and towns and cities, is saying, come and feed the behemoth of Job in the flesh. Come and meet the agent of chaos herself, who they were characterizing then as Clara the Rhino, which is so funny because then in first-hand accounts from, I think, Voltaire said that he saw Clara lick the face of her owner affectionately. So we have these two different things that they're perceiving, right? We're seeing Clara as, oh, I fed a rhino a carrot, and I'm going to write about that in my journal later on. And the advertisements that are showing her are, come meet the behemoth of Job in the flesh. But people in religion were so closely tied back then. They also wanted people to feel comfortable seeing something that was unusual. And so they had to warn them, this might frighten you. And it probably did frighten some people who were only used to domesticated animals. Yeah. It's basically like a dragon rolling through town.
I read the tourism. I've been reading like I've been actually listening to a podcast about sainthood, and they talk about how saints tourism, like in like European tourism, basically begins with like sainthood. Like people would go to like travel. Like Canterbury Tales is a good example of like going to look at relics. But yeah, like tourism kind of starts with like biblical, like because it's like the book that everyone knows of, and so like when you have those things that they have to have like a biblical tie almost. So.
And the royals did that too on their grand tours as teenagers, when they basically had to like make sure that all of the things that they're learning are coming to fruition before they take power. And it's funny because Glynis Ridley's book about Clara is called Clara's Grand Tour. So it's almost like this rhino took her own grand tour of all the major capitals and cities in Europe, and all of these royals who would have gone on their own grand tour now saw this rhino who, quite frankly, was more traveled than they were. Talk about tourism. She saw the world.
So we looked up a picture of a baby Indian rhino because I was like, well, what's the difference between an Indian rhino and an African rhino? They're adorable.
So cute.
And so then like you wrote of her like chasing chickens in the little courtyard, or like eating the banana from the hand, and I just was imagining, like, do you remember the video of the little elephant that runs around in circles and then falls over? Like that's what I'm imagining Clara, like,
seriously,
a rhino version of that.
Yes. And so I was lucky because Tanganyika Wildlife Park in Goddard, Kansas had a baby Indian rhino in 2023.
Oh, you said that.
Yeah. Well, the baby, though, I wanted to go meet when that baby was the same age that Clara was when she got on the Nap and Huff. I wanted to see how her feet would have padded, what her gait would have been like, her ear movements, her eye movements, the way she moved her mouth, the way she treated and interacted with the world around her. I literally sat on the ground outside of that enclosure and just watched that baby rhino. If you've never looked up baby rhino videos, Do it.
I will.
It's so
That's
cute.
really an immersive way of like capturing that. It's really cool to
Yeah.
have that experience.
Well, and what a really cool like opportunity that you had to be able to go do that.
There's
'cause-
only
Yeah.
4,000 of those animals left on the planet.
Yeah.
The fact that Tanganyika has 3 of them, come on. It's miraculous, honestly.
Yeah.
It's really interesting that they're able to not only keep that animal safe, but that it was born at the same time I needed to do that kind of research. Maybe not an accident. I see the
not-
ghost of Clara.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so but Claire's storyline and Delway's
Good job.
storyline is just one part of the book. You also have a dual timeline where we jump ahead to present time,
Mhm.
and you've got Andrea, right? Andrea?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so she's uncovering like these posters and things like that, and they're gonna look into this story, kind of, I guess, maybe as you looked into her story.
That's exactly it.
Okay.
Yeah, Daniel actually brought that up where it's like people didn't treat animals the same way then as they do now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And how important that is for the reader to know.
And for the listeners, as Clara's like timeline, what were we talking about? Just so
Oh, good point.
yeah.
Of how long it is? All
No,
right.
Yeah. What's the dates? Or what?
Oh,
This is
oh,
1700s, right?
So, yes, 1740 to 1758
Okay.
was
cool.
basically when
All
Clara
right.
landed in Europe. Yeah.
Okie
yeah.
dokie. So
Mhm.
18th century. Okay.
Yeah,
All
18th
right.
century. And this is like, if you think about the 18th century, a lot of people are familiar with 1776, the American Revolution,
Yeah.
and 1789, the French Revolution. This is before that. This is when
Okay.
everything kind of starts getting chaotic, but we're not to the chaos
Yeah.
quite yet.
So yeah.
Well, aren't they talking about that in the present day timeline?
They
where, that's kind of like this hedonism almost of everything that rich people wanted they could have, like rhinoceroses and rhinoceroses.
It's up to you. I like just using rhinos.
Oh,
Rhinos is
fair.
really, I like that too. So,
so that it was leading into these big moments in history that we're all familiar with.
Right. And I think wealth plays a big part of that. You can have whatever you want as long as you have the money to pay for it. And what happens then, obviously, we all know about the French Revolution and, how the 1% really fell.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens when something like Clara comes around is she actually showed some equity and some inequality at the same time. So what my main character in the modern timeline is discovering is how are animals perceived and treated in the 18th century versus how they're perceived and treated now. She finds some things that are exactly the same.
Yeah.
If you have a lot of wealth, you can capture an animal, whether that's safari hunting or having your own private menagerie back in the 18th century. If you have curiosity, you can still be wowed by an animal no matter your income level. So those two things are both displayed. But the reason that I wanted her story to take place in modern day was because animals are still not treated as equals on this planet, and historical animals have absolutely no voice to tell their own story. And sometimes their stories, as a product of their times, are actually way more important as an allegory for an overarching historical theme than we might think. Mostly because people force them to do things, but also because we are now realizing, oh, the reason this rhino toured Europe is because rich people wanted to see her and poor people were blessed by her and their reactions to her were the same, which does provide that equality. But things are a little different now with rhinos, especially with conservation, because conservation and rhinos are better now. But 100 years ago, there were 50 Indian rhinos left on the planet.
Mm.
So things have gotten better.
Yeah.
But not fast enough.
and I don't think people understand like conservation is like such a like massive endeavor. I just watched a documentary about like bison like buffalo conservation in Montana of all places. And you'd think as big as of a state it would be like just let them roam, but there's like they're trying to like get these herds to be completely dependent of humans, and then they have to make sure that they don't interfere with cattle, and like it's this whole thing, and it's taken them several decades from the 70s to now, and they're finally getting at a place where like they have a place for them in Montana to kind of like roam free, but it took like acts of like Congress almost to like get there. And it's like it's like I didn't know how detailed and how like labor intensive conservation was until recently.
Especially with larger mammals, which are considered keystone species. They help all of the other smaller animals around them survive.
Yeah.
Whether that's through, I'm going to traipse through this forest and make a path. that actually creates an ecosystem and an environmental impact. And if those larger mammals are no longer there to do those types of things, then the ecosystem around them actually suffers.
Yeah, we have
It's
trees
really
because there's no.
interesting.
Yeah, there's like trees exist in like Kansas because there's no bison to like trample them
Yep.
constantly. So it's like people don't really understand that and stuff about how much their impact is. It's really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I also have read about like predatory species, specifically the wolf. There was a book, and it's that same kind of area of the country where they actually killed them all out, and it had big, not good outcomes for the environment
Yeah.
because the apex predator would, kill off and keep certain herds at bay, and then but they would also help those herds get smarter at evading predators. And because of those kinds of things, it had all of these impacts on all of these other different smaller, less impactful ecosystems. And anyway, it's fascinating. And so yes, there's so much efforts that go into conservation that we just don't really, we can't fathom.
And people are connected to that too. We certainly
Absolutely.
are. And I think we
100%.
often separate ourselves from the animal kingdom because modern technology, and we consider intelligence and things like that. And we're like, oh, look, a deer. But that deer exists in the city of Wichita for a reason. If you go to the Great Plains Nature Center, you're going to see those things, right?
Yeah.
You see wildlife all around you all the time. We are intimately connected to the wild world around us, whether we like it or not. And if we don't do anything to stop or to start making conservation easier for people, or to stop the extinction of large mammals and predators, things are going to collapse. And I think that people often don't realize that, which is one of the reasons that my historical fiction niche will always be animal historical fiction, to help modern readers connect with why animals are so important in our culture.
That's really cool.
So like so I want to keep talking about animals, but
I really would
like I was gonna ask
for the
about
fun.
your I've read some of your flash fiction.
Yeah.
And we're gonna so I like the thing about the Tasmanian tiger. So you started working in so you've done flash fiction and you've kind of gotten some acclaim and things with like was it New York Midnight shorts?
Yeah, NYC Midnight. Yeah.
Cool.
And so I just had a question. So like when writing in like this very short prose, like tell us about that, kind of like give us like tell us about your experience, because I'm sure a lot of people might not have familiarity with it. And also just like what skills did you hone doing those
Oh
flash
my
fiction
gosh. So
contests?
think about this. They've actually changed it to make it easier. When I first started doing the NYC Midnight, you had 24 hours, a genre, a word count, a specific word, and an action. And they gave you that time period to get that done. So the first one that I did was 250 words. It's sci-fi. The word is wing, and the action is recording a conversation. You can imagine all of the different things you can come up with that. But if you've got 24 hours, 8 of those are going to be spent sleeping. And 8 of those for me were spent at work. So I have this very specific amount of time I can work on this. So what it did for me was it forced me to A, focus very deeply on a topic and a subject, B, get creative and figure out how my creative process works, and C, figure out when to stop editing. I have a deadline, right? You can edit something forever, but if you've got a deadline of it's 10 p.m. Central Time because it's midnight in New York City, you got to get that in, or you're not going to be able to participate in the competition. So it's like, okay, I gotta release this. I gotta let it go. Here it is. Boom. So it not only taught me how to succinctly edit, but it also taught me not every single word needs to be in this. If you're over by one word, you're disqualified. Yeah. 250 words, 500 words, 1,000 words. And one of them is 100 words. How can you tell a full story in that amount of time? You better figure it out. Which scene by scene, as you're writing a novel, can actually be very helpful too, because if you get too wordy, you're going to lose your reader.
Yeah.
Concise, abrupt, startling endings, things that leave your reader wanting more. Those are the types of things that helped me develop. And I found that my best stories in that always had to do with animals as well. Yeah.
So let's talk about one because, well, it wasn't flash fiction, but it was the, you read a story for us at our Spooky Stories event. That was in October. Spooky Stories for Grown-Ups. Look for it next year. And it was about Tasmanian tigers.
Yeah.
And I know that we kind of talked about it, but I thought it would be good for the podcast. So I wanted to recount that in a little bit. But they recently discovered a preserved Tasmanian tiger head that they want to clone to reintroduce them to the wild, which I think that's crazy. I mean, hello, Jurassic Park. There's a whole movie franchise about it. So first of all, can you talk about that?
Yeah.
And then, what was I gonna? Let's just talk about that for a second.
Sure.
That's crazy, right?
It is crazy. You have to consider this. In the early 20th century, Tasmanian tigers had a bounty on their head, and farmers were paid to bring in dead Tasmanian tigers. They did not understand, though, that yes, Tasmanian tigers killed chickens, but they actually didn't kill larger animals. They're mostly poultry eaters. And the problem with that is that when you have an apex predator in the area and it's suddenly gone, all of the smaller prey suddenly disappears. They also didn't realize that they were literally hunting them to extinction. They didn't have the conservation efforts in place to say, we're only counting 50. Maybe we should stop. They also didn't have the zookeeper practices and trainings that we do today in order to keep them safe. The last Tasmanian tiger in captivity, this is kind of contested sometimes. His name is Benjamin. He's at the Beaumaris Zoo. And he was locked out of his cage one cold night, and the last one in captivity, which we think was the last one on this planet, died of exposure. There is no way in 2024 that an animal at a zoo would ever be treated that way. I've been to many zoos. I've been behind the scenes. Like I said, I've sat at the gate of a baby Indian rhino. I met lions recently for one of my other projects. Those keepers are in tune. They are attentive. They've got walkie-talkies and technology to help them through this. If they want to bring back Tasmanian tigers, I think one of the first things we have to ask ourselves when it comes to conservation is why? Are we doing this because the animal went extinct naturally? And if an animal goes extinct naturally in its habitat, there's probably good reason for that. The resources were probably not there for that animal to thrive. Do I think we need to bring back saber-toothed tigers? No, y'all. I got a little house cat. We don't need that in our
They
lives.
found a saber-toothed tiger kitten too recently.
I saw that.
I've actually heard there's like a debate about koalas on whether that we've brought them back several times. There's like a koala island and things, but there's also like debate because it's like like some of the fires that they've been caught on were man caused, but also like they're stubborn. Like there's some theories that they're also not long for this world.
Listen.
Because they're a little dumb.
They're a little dumb.
We may not be very smart, but we are cute, okay? And so that's part of it too, though. I mean, when you have a predator that might be seen as an unattractive species to keep on this planet because it's harmful for farmers versus something like a cuddly koala, which, by the way, if you've ever looked in a koala's mouth, I encourage you to do so. It's terrifying. Just look up scary koala pictures. They're real, okay?
They look like they have beaks almost.
They're terrifying.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the Tasmanian tiger thing, people made them go extinct.
Yeah.
There will be complications with bringing them back. And, you know, with modern conservation of other mammals, you have to think about this. There's inbreeding. They do give birth to litters. And so in order to do that, you have to have mating pairs that are not related to each other in order for that to be successful. That diversity is going to be very difficult for them to achieve in a short amount of time. Do I think they should study it and figure out how to prevent other animals that are major predators from going extinct? Yes. Do I think they should use it as a case study for wolves and other things in other parts of the world? Yes. Do I think they should bring it back? Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
They've been trying to bring back mammoths for a while. And one of the things that it's not the technology, it's that they don't have a viable sample because towards the end of their life, they were a lot of inbreeding and like, please fact check me. But like what I read was like a lot of the DNA that they are able to find from frozen ones is like not viable DNA because
corrupt
because
I mean, study it, learn from it, but maybe don't try and do a Jurassic Park.
That's what I'm just saying. I'm just like, come on. Guys.
Would I watch that movie though if they're going to bring it back?
Absolutely watch that movie.
There is a park.
That's not what I'm asking.
there is like a park that they are like bringing megafauna in, and it's called like, which they already have it's in Siberia.
Megafauna?
Megafauna are like large mammals, like elephant, rhinoceros,
sense.
bison, like woolly mammoths are all considered megafauna.
The giant sloth.
Yeah. I mean,
So there's actually a park in like Siberia where it's called like I forgot, it's not Jurassic Park, it's like Pleiadion Park or whatever. And they've introduced like several elk, moose, and like the one bison, not the plains but the wood bison they've introduced to that area. And that's the plan, is if they ever get viable clone mammoths, is to like release them in Siberia. So I know a lot about megafauna, so this is a great.
And I think you have to ask yourself why. Like, why are we so interested in animals that are going extinct, and why are we interested in animals that are already extinct? And we're not interested. Those are, that's cryptozoology stuff, right? Why are we not interested in the animals that have 50, 100, 4,000 left? Why are we not more focused on those? And why do our imaginations go, oh, we could bring this back, when maybe we should be putting our resources toward the 2 species of rhinos that there are fewer of 100 left, the Javan and Sumatran rhinos. They are water-based Asian mammals. They live in an island community. You'll never see one in your lifetime unless you go there. And even then, they are so highly protected.
But please don't go there, because that seems like that would be a bad idea too.
Yeah, I mean, they're in preserves. Like
Okay.
The one last Sumatran rhino was literally exported because they needed his DNA so badly that they knew he could no longer be held in captivity in North America. These animals are in desperate need. And if they do go extinct, that's when they're going to make the news. And that's what makes me sad. They should be making the news now. We got 50 left. We got 100 left. Something has to be done. So yeah, bring back the Tasmanian tiger, but maybe put half of those funds toward animals that are on the brink right now that only need our care in order to survive, instead of bringing something back that doesn't need to come back.
That's a really
I'm
good thought about it.
convinced.
Yeah.
Good.
But I was already convinced.
Google Javan rhinos and tell me you don't want a fuzzy rhino to survive.
Okay.
They're
I was like,
fuzzy.
to like keep, so I can have
I
it
mean,
at home?
sure. If they're that abundant, go for it. They're not that
Leave
big.
only footprints, take only photos.
Boom.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
You know what? This seems like a good place to take a break.
Yeah, we are going to take a break, and we'll be back here with Jillian to talk more about the Rhino Keeper and also
Category
books.
7.
Books that people tell you not to read.
Did you know that the Wichita Public Library offers a large selection of digital magazines for free? They are easy to access and are now available to you on the Libby app. You can download Libby from your phone or tablet's app store, sign in with your Wichita Public Library card, and start browsing immediately. Magazines can be found under the Guide section on Libby and include popular magazine titles about news and politics, cooking, celebrity news, healthy living, and more. For additional information on Libby, please visit wichita.overdrive.com.
And we're back with Jillian Forsberg. I guess I've never said your last name out loud. Did I say that correctly?
Forsberg.
It's really funny. Oh, wait, no, I actually like it. Hang on. It's really funny that you say that, because my audiobook reader didn't know how to say my last name. And so I had to ask my husband, because I married into that.
Oh, sure.
And I was like, hey, Cody, how do you say our last name? And he looked at me like, what are you talking about? And I said, just say it. He's like, Forsberg? I said, okay, cool. Because I didn't know if it was like Forsberg or Forsberg or like, what is it? He's like, Forsberg. I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like, I've only been married to you for 12 years and never really thought to ask.
See, that's the thing, right? You just like, I see it, and it makes sense. It's in my head, but like,
Right.
I've never
So wait,
actually
how do
said
you
it out
say it?
loud.
Because I just hear I went to full disclosure, I went to school with your husband, so I just hear like our like Coach Woolen being like, Forsberg, knock it off. So
Don't say that to me, Daniel. I'll get some kind of complex. I believe it's Forsberg, like a force of nature.
Yeah. So that's not how we
But
said
I did not. I was not born with this name, and so therefore, do not. You can fact check me, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But I fact checked myself by asking my husband. So that was one of the interesting things about like audiobooks is they do ask you all of these questions beforehand.
I love that you just brought that up, because that's a perfect segue for my next question, which is to ask you about the audiobook, because you have an audiobook version of the Rhino Keeper coming out very soon, right?
Yeah, I do, and I'm so excited about it. Did you see my little hand
I
motion?
did.
I'm so excited. Okay, I have a confession to make. I've listened to one audiobook, and it's my audiobook.
Okay.
And
Daniel
so,
loves audiobooks.
Sorry,
I
Daniel.
only listen to audiobooks.
Okay,
so
brilliant.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So it might not be any good, but I think it's good. But I have nothing to base it on, so I think it's brilliant. But
I think you should not downsell it.
Thank
I
you.
think you should be like,
It's
it's really
so good.
Tell
No,
us why
it's-
you like it
it's
so
so
much.
good. So I actually feel like it enhanced the story because the emotion is in your brain. But like you were talking about the prologue earlier, right? The prologue is so intense when my reader reads it. Oh my gosh. I had goosebumps. I'm like, I already know this. I read and wrote the whole thing, you know? And what I found was I was being fully immersed, and it was brilliantly done. I have a historical fiction expert reading it. That's really all she does. Her name is Carolyn Hewitt. She speaks French and German, and so she was able to add accents and pronounce all of the European words properly.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
it was so cool. And it was overwhelming, though, because we had 65 auditions for this. So I had to listen 65.
Okay.
I listened to 65 people read the same little sonnet Oh, it was incredible though. By the end of it, my 9-year-old daughter was mouthing the words along with everybody because she had it memorized too. I had man and woman teams because it's a dual timeline. I had British men. I had a whole bunch of women. I had people who were just reading it on their cell phones. The process for that was fascinating. I had some in very high quality studios and some who didn't try that hard. It was a really interesting way for me to see other artists and how they work. And the one that we chose, I just felt immediately comfortable with her voice.
Okay.
It was great.
It was just a vibe, like
Yep.
you felt it click.
Yep. Every single one of them, in case you were wondering, pronounced the main character's name differently.
Andrea or Due?
That one. Dawe. I said this is a problem. But we got through it.
Okay.
It's great. So that comes out.
But they don't
Pre-orders.
get any coaching before
No.
they're auditioning. They just get like things,
that's it.
right?
They don't get any coaching. But then I had to fill out a character worksheet for her. And I went overboard. I made like a Pinterest board and like, here's what this person looks like in my head. And here's the movie that I think you should reference for this person's voice. And here's his attitude and all of these things.
Okay.
I said, here's a picture of my college professor from McPherson College in case you wanted to know who this character was inspired by. Everything. And she said, this is so helpful for me because now I know what they look like in my own mind. That was really fun. It was like putting together a cast list for like a play.
Which I always do when I'm reading anyway.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
I haven't done that for your book yet. So,
Well,
but that's funny. I'm going to go like Google professors at Pittsburgh, but
he's at McPherson.
Oh,
McPherson, yeah. His name is Kenyon if you would like to see him. He's brilliant. But
Okay.
yeah, if you're wondering what Dow Mount Vandermeer looks like, it's definitely Eddie Redmayne.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Like what?
But don't tell me anything
Yeah.
else.
It's
What
Eddie
a-
Redmayne, Fantastic Beasts, and Les Miserables combined.
Oh, nice.
Okay, because yeah.
A little
Uh,
bit of quirk.
fair.
Yeah. So anyway, audiobook stuff is really fun for me now because I finally have one under my belt. That pre-order is January 1st and that comes out February 14th.
That's
Okay,
just
very
in time for Valentine's Day.
Exactly. we all love Clara, so we get a little more of her.
So we've mentioned that this today we're talking about books someone told you not to read, and you're being an animal lover. There's always like a lot of like literature, especially like stuff we had to read as kids, like between K and 12, is like not the kindest to animals. Like a lot of traumatic stories. Like I read Where the Red Fern Grows comes to mind.
Old Yeller, Black
Yeller.
Beauty.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah, so not that we want to censor or tell anyone not to read anything, but like we're being all animal lovers here. What are some books on your do not read list because of how they treat animals?
They actually
Or like
don't
you would have
exist.
picked.
No,
Oh.
that does not exist for me.
Okay.
You have to understand that when it comes to animal rights, if you don't see the bad, you can't see the good.
Yeah.
So
Fair.
there are no books that I would tell anyone not to read, especially when it comes to animals, because we all need to have that visceral reaction to animal cruelty in order to demonstrate that we care about animals on this planet. I will read anything anybody hands me, no matter what is in it, because I know that I need to learn from this. That might be vicious for some people who are like, I literally can't stomach it, but I read everything. I read Stephen King, I read horror, I read romance. I do not censor myself because I know that I will learn something from it. I read my first content warning book the other day. What an interesting concept. At the very beginning of the book, there was a content warning.
Oh, I was like, wait, I'm trying to picture what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had some trigger warnings.
Yeah.
I've had some too. I had one for Butcher and Blackbird because I had to read it. So-
Okay.
yeah. Which had a very I won't go into details, but that book needed content warnings.
I don't know if the one that I read did. It's My Darling Dreadful Thing. And it's horror. It's kind of body horror where someone takes possession. And so it's a very descriptive thing of someone being possessed. It didn't bother me at all, probably because I knew what was coming. So with my second book that's coming out next year, the publisher and I talked just this morning, we are going to put in a content warning because there is a historical event that happens with animals that will cause some people to have a visceral reaction. And here's the thing. It really happened. We need to talk about it. Just like with Black Beauty.
Yeah.
That horse was abused. And then that horse ended up having a happy ending. But that horse went through a lot. Old Yeller, the end of it, stop. Even when you go back to like the movies, like Fox and Hound, you know how many years it's been since I watched that? I'm not going to watch it, but I know what happened. I only did it once. I know what happens in it. I'm good. You know, I'd much rather watch Balto. But, you know, I don't think that any reader should say, I will not read this because. I think every reader should say, this was hard for me because. But if we censor books in that way where we don't read them because it's going to be difficult for us, we often censor the world around us as well. And sometimes we need to open our eyes to unpleasantries that exist not just within animals, but within different people groups than we identify with in order to have a full understanding of the world in which we live.
I really like how you say that, but also, like, I tried reading Night Bitch, which is the movie's coming out soon. Can I say that word on the podcast?
Yeah, it's
It's
in
the
the title.
You already said it.
You can bleep me out. And honestly, I couldn't finish it. Like, there's
And that's
What was the
Okay.
book called again?
Night Bitch.
Cool.
Congratulations.
Okay, just wanted to check. So.
Yeah. Go ahead, you guys.
No, if that's the title of the book, you have to say it. A DNF is different from a I will not even try.
I mean, if I would have known, I feel like I would have been like, you guys, probably not my jam. You know?
So that's the thing. Like, that's where I think content warnings or trigger warnings at the very beginning, like just a paragraph, might help you decide if this is for you or not, rather than someone going into the reviews and being like 1 star because I have a specific trigger that I didn't like.
Okay, yes.
Right? That's
Yes.
different. If the publisher or the editor or the author is like, hi, before you delve into this journey, let me tell you something about this. I think something that probably should use a content warning is Tender as the Flesh. That's a cannibal book.
Have I read that?
Also,
what the
I think I notice I do this more with books than like I do this more with books than like I also do it with everything. But like when something gets uncomfortable, not just like something that's like triggering, but like embarrassment and shame, like I'll just like move really fast.
Yes.
You're just like, skip over that.
I'm not like, and it's not like, and I'm just like, I'm gonna just get through it really fast.
I'm honestly considering putting what chapter this terrible event in animal history happened so that people can choose to skip it. I'm toying with that idea.
I actually kind of like that, like where it's like a skippable chapter.
Yep.
Where it's like,
You'll see the aftermath of it, but you won't see the visceral description of what
Yeah.
these animals and the people surrounding them actually went through in 18th century Europe with a king who thought that he was God. It's
Cool.
going to be a great book. I'm
Wait,
excited about it.
Can't
18th
wait.
century.
we're gonna ask you about it at the
Uh,
very
no.
end.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah.
No,
We're excited
yeah.
about it.
So okay, are there? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, so let's reframe this a little bit then. So, like, let's say, because you just talked about 1-star reviews,
Mhm.
where you leave a 1 star because you had a very specific reaction. But like, so they can make or break a book, right? Like, you
Absolutely.
go to Goodreads and you got a bunch of 2 stars because no one likes this particular thing. But also, well, whatever. Are there any books that you have loved that have been panned by critics?
Well, I think the one I just talked about, which was My Darling Dreadful Thing,
Okay.
that book has abuse, tragedy, possession, terrifying ghosts, moments where you're like, oh my God, like how could this happen to a little girl? And there are some things in that book that it's literally my version of hell. And I looked it up on Goodreads, and a lot of the ratings are 1 and 2 star because people couldn't handle those elements of this book. When you get down to it, that book is a love story. When you read it on the surface, that book is about a little girl who's being abused. And sometimes we have to make sure that we're censoring ourselves in our opinions because you're not forcing that on somebody else. I learned a lot from that book. I understand some people would have been terrified of that book, but that book had a content warning at the beginning and it warned you what was coming. And if it wasn't for you, you can do not finish it. You can put it down. But I personally don't think it's fair to throw the author under the bus and be like, how could you write something so disgusting? Because they had to. As a writer and an author, I think it's often not recognized by readers that the things that we write about live inside of us until we get them out. And if that author, her name is Joanna, if she chose that she absolutely had to get this out, then she did not have a choice. Those things needed to be in that book where they were not edited out. And I wonder if there were things that were edited out that were worse than that didn't make it in at all. But I don't think that it's fair for the world to say, I didn't like this because I was triggered by it. And I mean, that's the same for banned books too, or a book someone's like, oh my God, that book is disgusting. Don't read that book. Or that book is about something that I don't personally agree with, so you shouldn't read that book. What if it expands your worldview enough to make you make a difference?
I just don't like violence.
Sure.
Like,
and that's fine. You know that.
Gratuitous violence.
Yeah.
And that's where I think I draw the line. But I would never, I feel like my reaction to that is very, like, in line with who I am as a person. And so if I was talking to you about this book, I would be like, I can't read that kind of stuff, so I wouldn't want to do it.
And you
But
wouldn't read it anyway.
I probably wouldn't necessarily recommend it to you, but I would be like, a lot of people really liked it. Because
Right.
I'm a librarian and I try to find the value in everything.
I think that's it for me too. I'm a writer. I try to find the value in everything.
Mm-hmm.
I've been
Mhm.
like dealing with this because like body horror is like something like I saw David Cronenberg's The Fly with Jeff Goldblum way too young because my parents had HBO.
So
and
I
it was-
see that.
yeah, but like
Know
so
of it.
like body horror does not roll. I do not roll with body horror at all. But everyone keeps talking about the movie The Substance, and like I've read like reviews of it, and it's supposed to be like a really great movie. And I was just like thinking about it's like, okay, it's not my cup of tea, but I'm just gonna watch it and just see like because it's like even though it's not like something I tend to like watch in as far as horror genres go, but I'm like I'll give it a shot. And so like yeah, I think when we censor ourselves sometimes we do create like an echo chamber, and it's
Mhm.
like
100%.
it gets for me it's like you have to like break it even though it's like safe and comfortable and like especially when we only have a little bit of time in our lives for like entertainment, so it's like and I'm not going to watch something that's going to make me uncomfortable
No.
given like the value of this time, but like I think sometimes we have to like break those boundaries for ourselves because you can get really in a trap of you're just like an echo chamber almost of just like things you're comfortable with. And it's, like,
Exactly. And that doesn't say that if you know it's going to make you uncomfortable, you have to force yourself into it. But if you are uncomfortable, give yourself permission to put the book down,
Mm-hmm.
turn off the movie. But that doesn't mean you should go leave a 1-star Goodreads review because you got uncomfortable.
yeah.
That means that you should censor yourself in that way and say, all right, well, that was not for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go on to my cozy romance. And that's fine if that's what you need to do. But that's where I kind of get defensive for these authors who have come up with these brilliant pieces of literature that are either banned or panned because of the content inside of them makes people uncomfortable. And isn't that why we read and write anyway? For something to change us?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people just do that things for entertainment. And that's cool too. If you want to read body horror or violence for entertainment, you do you, boo boo. But I'm not here to tell you that you have to or you don't have to.
Like all of the people who listen to true crime like podcasts,
Yeah.
where they get really like, into all of the very specific pieces of the crime, also not for me. A lot of people like it.
That they sure do.
And
They
so,
sure do.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like I said, censor yourself. Don't censor media or books.
Boom. You heard
there
it.
you go. Since
You heard it from Jillian.
yeah.
So
Um,
we're just gonna end the podcast here. No, I'm just kidding.
actually much like in the 1740s
Yeah.
Europe was in a case of Clara fever. We are currently in a case of Moo Deng Mania.
Moo Deng Mania,
Yeah,
as it were.
Yeah. Honestly, that's the kind of there was a song that came out a long time ago called Listomania, and it was like based off like
Yeah.
what Franz Liszt, I think is his name, like was this composer, and everyone went nuts in Europe, and like that's where the term came from, Listomania, and like that's the first big like music fandom before Beatles and everything.
Okay.
So
Cute.
yeah,
A little bit of music history from Daniel,
Ye-
former music librarian.
former music librarian, but so it's kind of this book's coming out in a weird timing because like while the book tells a story about a baby rhinoceros, like the internet's blowing up with this story of like this baby pygmy hippo
She's so cute.
in the Philippines.
Moo Deng.
Yeah, and so has that like crossed your mind as like are you kind of like noticing some similarities in how people are reacting to
Yes and no. I mean, spoiler alert, Clara does grow up in my book. And so right now we're living in Moo Deng fantasy baby land. Moo Deng will grow up. And that's just like a puppy. It's like, wow, you didn't stay cute forever.
Yeah.
But okay, well, fine. It's a pygmy hippo. I get it. They will be cute forever. But Moo Deng, the sensation is great. It's bringing attention to animal rights, conservation. I mean, yeah, Moo Deng is hilarious and will bite their keeper at any given moment. It's unpredictable. But there's also this escapism that goes along with an animal celebrity where you don't have to be anybody specific to like Moo Deng. Moo Deng is not political. Moo Deng has nothing to do with rights of anybody or anything. Moo Deng is a pygmy hippo. Moo Deng doesn't even speak English. Moo Deng is Moo Deng. And I love that about animals where it's like everybody can like an animal.
The great equalizer.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should maybe use Moo Deng in some of your, be like, oh, you like Moo Deng? Check out Baby Clara.
I
No.
feel like that would be copyrighted in
Yeah,
some way,
probably,
but I
right.
can try my
I-
best.
this is like This might just be an aside, but I was actually like reading this article that kind of like it was about this like village in India that's dealing with like a constant issue with elephants, and it like the way they wrote about the elephants, they kept using terms like conflict and negotiations, and almost like giving and elephants are very smart and things, and you're talking about like pygmy hippos don't have political or views on. I was like, after reading that elephant art, I was like, I don't know, man. But elephants have a lot of opinions.
Elephants and pygmy hippos, I feel like they're two different levels of large mammal. Like, I don't want to mess with an elephant, but I would pick up Moo Deng, okay? Like, basically like a giant potato.
Think she would let you in that.
I would try my
If
hardest.
you could read, without getting bit, if you could read a story, like we'll have, there's programs where like people, like you can read a book to a dog at the Kansas Humane Society. So like this hypothetical situation, you get to take a book to read the Moo Deng, and she'll be receptive to it, not just bite you the whole time.
Oh.
What is the book you're bringing?
Okay, so I am a very large nerd, and if you would look at my car in the parking lot, there's a Tolkien sticker on the back. I cannot help but compare Moo Deng to a hobbit.
Okay.
Moo Deng is round. Moo Deng is hungry. Moo Deng does not want to go on a long epic journey. Moo Deng wondered why you did not throw the ring into the fires of Mount Doom and just solve this problem from the beginning. So I would read Moo Deng sections of The Hobbit that describe food, and I would read Moo Deng sections of The Lord of the Rings that describe Gollum, Frodo, and Sam on their journey in the swamps, because I think that Moo Deng would have been the guiding light to take them all the way to the flames of Mount Doom, where she would have been like, what are you doing? You guys could have done this centuries ago. And Elrond is in the background like, Sam told you, Isildur should have thrown the ring into the flame. And then there's Moo Deng, But I think Moo Deng and Gollum would have been buddies.
Oh, probably.
They're the same color.
Yeah. I can see that. They probably would both like appreciate like
single focus.
Yeah.
Single focus.
Single focus. Although the lembas bread would not have been enough. And we would have needed second breakfast and 11 C's and luncheon and tea and, so.
All of it.
Yeah. Also, if I read the whole thing to Moo Deng, I would be longer to spend time with Moo Deng. And so therefore.
She might fall asleep and you could just like keep
reading. Yeah. It's my entire unabridged version of Lord of the Rings.
A board book.
A board book?
Like,
yeah.
It's probably smarter because I would come back with my extended edition Lord of the Rings I've had since childhood, like with a chomp out of it.
Yeah.
I want to go down to our bookstore and grab an extra copy.
Okay, no problem.
Y'all have like, do you have dog-eared books? Like books like when
I've had for 1,000 years.
That book that like your dog chewed on.
It's falling. The pages are falling out of my Lord of the Rings.
I have a book that my dog chewed on that I had to buy from the library because it was a library book.
Yeah.
Do you still have that?
Yeah.
You didn't throw it away?
I mean, no, because you can still read it. It's just too damaged to get back on the shelf.
I feel like once you have your dog chewed on a book, it's like it's now you don't throw it away because it's like it's a piece.
It's a little memory of my dog. It actually wasn't even a good
tooth
book.
imprint.
So.
Yeah,
that's cute.
I mean, it was a fine book. I'm not telling you not to read it.
Oh,
but also it was not a book I would have gone out.
You look at your Goodreads. Is it a 1 star because you didn't like it that much?
I mean, I'd probably give it like 2.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
So what's next for you, Jillian? You said you have a book coming out next year?
I do.
Okay,
yes.
Tell us all about it.
So my book coming out next year is a companion to the Rhino Keeper. You will meet a character in there whose name is Johann Candler.
Okay.
He was one of the first porcelain makers in Europe, and a mad king asked him to make an entire porcelain menagerie, which is not possible because porcelain that gets that large explodes in the kilns. And at the same time, there is a woman who is told to be the king's mistress, even though she doesn't really have any agency to say yes or no to him. And she is tasked with creating a physical menagerie at the same time. So those two characters intertwine. I'm very excited about it because I loved that character. Once again, it's a true story. And so, that's coming out at the same time, around this time next year, October 21st, 2025, the Porcelain Menagerie.
Seems like you can get into some bull in a china shop kind of territory.
Yeah, exactly.
The real menagerie and the forest, like if they... Sorry.
Oh, there's some shattered porcelain in this book. I'm not gonna lie to you. People go crazy over this stuff. There's something called porcelain fever, where instead of wanting gold, the royals wanted porcelain. I'm like, it's not a really smart idea.
Is that like when my grandma like invested in precious moment cells?
Literally. Is this smart?
The royals.
The royals made some quirky choices, but I will say
they could because they had money and they didn't care.
That's exactly it. But they also didn't pay the porcelain makers. And so, there's so much conflict. But also those pieces still exist in the world. And now they are worth millions.
That's cool.
It's really cool. So look up Porcelain Menagerie, Mice and Porcelain. You'll see goats, rhinos, they're supposed to be life size. You can't do it with a rhino. But yeah, spoiler alert, things don't go well.
Okay. And so if people want to be aware of all the things that all your news and upcoming stuff, is there a place they can follow you?
Yeah, I'm on most social medias at Jillian Forsberg, and I have a newsletter if people are not into social media, and that's just on my website, jillianforsberg.com. I do a ton of local events, and I also love talking to book clubs, so if anyone would like to talk to me about the Rhino Keeper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we just
Awesome.
loved having you here.
Thanks.
For
Thank
a
you.
fun in-person, which we don't usually do
Yeah.
with our authors.
Amazing.
So, yeah. Thanks so much.
Till next
Thank you.
time.
Till next time, dear listeners.
All right. You've been listening to Read,
Return.
Repeat.
We're so nerdy. It's fine.
I just nerded out about Lord of the Rings.
Did a
for
little
about
bit,
5
but
minutes.
it's okay because I liked it. So.
All right.
Attention ReadICT superfans! If you're looking for a place to chat about your favorite books, get excellent reading recommendations for challenge categories, or just meet some new friends who love books as much as you do, check out the ReadICT Challenge Facebook group. To join us on Facebook, simply search for groups using hashtag ReadICT Challenge and click Join. For more information on the ReadICT Challenge, visit wichitalibrary.org/readict.
All right. Well, that was really fun.
That was a lot of fun. I'm excited to listen to the audiobook version of the
So-
Rhino Keeper.
I bet you are. I think that'll be really cool to hear how her reader plays those characters. But also, it was fun to hear her get passionate. I feel like she was very much speaking to our librarian soul. Like,
Yeah.
you must read the books. Don't censor.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I got a lot of personal growth from that interview, and I'm gonna stop fast forwarding through embarrassing scenes on TV shows.
The lesson here, Daniel, is that you can do what you think you need to do, but don't
Tell other people.
force that on other people, right?
Yeah, I get that. Oh yeah, I mean obviously.
Obviously. Well,
We're
this
librarians,
was, a great
right
one
to
to
read.
wrap up our season 4.
It's been an awesome trip this year.
I feel like we did a lot of really fun interviews this year.
Yeah, so it's been great. I'm excited for I'm gonna go back and listen. The holidays are coming up. I'm gonna go back and listen to some of those episodes, especially. Yeah.
And if you haven't, go back and listen to them because, not you, Daniel, you listeners,
Yeah.
go back and listen to some of the ones you missed because we talked to some really cool people this year.
Yeah, we should do like a best of or not.
Nope,
Yeah,
Kyle says no.
Kyle's shaking his head. Anyway, thanks for and make sure to check out the new categories for ReadICT or 2025 will be dropping relatively soon.
At the end of the year. It's
Yeah.
usually like that last weekend of the year so that you're all ready to go for January 1st.
So anyway, thank you all for listening and happy ReadICT 2024 to everyone.
Hey!
So
A list of the books discussed in today's episode can be found in the accompanying show notes. To request any of the books heard about in today's episode, visit wichitalibrary.org or call us at 316-261-8500.
thank you to Jillian Forsberg for joining us for today's recording. This has been a production of the Wichita Public Library, and a big thanks goes out to our production crew and podcast team.
Yes, we are very grateful for the whole team. To participate in the ReadICT Reading Challenge, please visit wichitalibrary.org/ReadICT. Stay connected with other ReadICT participants on the ReadICT Challenge Facebook page. Find out what's trending near you, post book reviews, look for local and virtual events, and share book humor with like-minded folks. To join the group, search hashtag ReadICT Challenge on Facebook and click join.
And don't forget to log your books in the reading tracker app Beanstack. Each month you log a book in the challenge, you're eligible to win fun prizes. If you need any assistance signing up or for logging books, give us a call, reach us in chat, or stop by your nearest branch.
You can follow this podcast through the Spotify app or stream episodes on whatever platform you listen to podcasts. If you like what you heard today, be sure to subscribe, share with all your friends, go back and listen to the rest of the season that you missed, and join us next year for wherever this podcast might take us.
Bye.